And so the question I try to ask is, how do your childhood passions as a kid prepare you for your now adult career choice?
Okay. So my adult career choice is I serve as a director of operations. That's my primary role. I have some secondary roles, but that's my primary role. And to be a director of operations, you've got to know the big picture, but you also got to break it down into the details to take care of different tasks. So as a child, athletics was my childhood passion. And so doing things like drill team, track and field, cross country, basketball, and softball, you know what the goal, you know what the goal was, but you had to break it down into the details to actually accomplish the task. And it was something that I learned that I couldn't do it by myself. I was never the best one in any of those endeavors, but I was a part of a team. And as a collective unit, you learn how to work together. And so I'm learning, to lead a team when I have a team, to lead a team as a collective unit, but also breaking down the details and setting goals for each step of the way to accomplish whatever you need to do in the background.
Welcome to the Imagine Exposure Vodcast. I have a very, 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 very special guest today. And I say it all the time, and it's true, but specifically today, this is a person who, even when I was thinking of a lot of different aspects with Tracie to Cultivate and just in terms of the forming and the development standpoint, I was so blessed and privileged. Years ago, I had an opportunity to serve with a group called the Impact Movement, and Ms. Tracie Warren was very instrumental in helping to frame the foundation for building. And while I believe that God and many other people, of course, invested into that, I am so grateful for a lot of her work for me personally, but I know for so many other people throughout the country. And so without further ado, I have the great Tracie Warren here. How you doing, Ms. Warren?
Hey, Zach, it's good to see you again.
Good to see you as well. Our first question out the gate we ask every guest is, who are you and how would you define yourself?
Really, I'm a person that likes to keep things simple. For me, I consider myself first and foremost a Black child of God, African American in its flavor. But I love God and I love people. I'm a girl from the West Coast, from South Central Los Angeles. Don't mess with me. Yeah. So just in the very basic sense, that's who I am. And I love it.
Awesome. What is your story as it pertains to work and vocation?
Well, actually, growing up in the hood, they don't like to call it that, but that's what it was when I was growing up there in Los Angeles. I'm in the ATL now, shawty. But yeah, but growing up, there weren't many people in my circles that were saying, "Ooh, you're gonna be this when you grow up. What you gonna do when you grow up?" I don't think we realized that we were just trying to make it and survive day to day, that we just didn't have those kinds of conversations. And so it really wasn't until I started things like cross country and track and field and different athletic things that, teachers and coaches started talking a little bit more about, stay in school. And family members talked about staying in school, but it was never really a push to go do something with your life in terms of a career. It was just trying to get it in, make some money, and take care of yourself. So as it relates to the work that I'm doing, it wasn't until I was in college that I got involved in campus ministry, because that's the field that I'm in, Christian nonprofit. And I started to just think about my own spiritual development and what that meant, and what are some ways that I could express that after college. So it was either Christian ministry or psychology, which is what I majored in. And so I chose the former, to go into campus ministry and really be about helping develop spiritual lives of people that look like me.
Awesome. Awesome. What would you say is the biggest misconception about your job?
To this day, there are family and friends who think that it's not a real job. Because you're in when we say Christian nonprofit, that's what it means. You don't make a lot of money. And so there's this sense that you're going to be poor all your life and so on and so forth. And I got out of debt in 1993, I believe. And I've never looked back. And I'm not saying this to brag. I'm saying this to emphasize the fact that it's God that has provided. I owned a condo and sold it. I bought a house here in Atlanta as a single Black woman, and that isn't something it's frowned upon. It's not something that many look to aspire to, in a sense. And so, just that the misconception is that God is not going to provide for you, and nothing could be further from the truth.
Who are the people in your vocational story in which you're most grateful for?
Oh, wow. I'm going to say it. I'm 58 years old. There are a lot of people that were there in my humble beginnings back in 1986. Catherine Gamelgard Bergeron, Charles and Rebecca Gilmer were instrumental. They were the founders of the Impact movement. Man, so many friends along the way. I don't think I could name them all, but Kimberly Moore, Laura Haggerty, Laura Vinagrado is her name now, Anthony and Angela Johnson. Just a whole lot. And today, Jimmy McGee, Curtis Campbell, and a slew of other people that I just wouldn't have time to name.
Okay. One of the things that we like to do is, specifically when young people are looking up to all of the guests that we have, a lot of times it's good for them to kind of format their lives into the guests, or in terms of the vocational progression of the guests, that sort of thing. And so the question I try to ask is, how do your childhood passions as a kid prepare you for your now adult career choice?
Okay, so my adult career choice is, I serve as a director of operations. That's my primary role. I have some secondary roles, but that's my primary role. And to be a director of operations, you've got to know the big picture, but you also got to break it down into the details to take care of different tasks. So as a child, athletics was my childhood passion. And so doing things like drill team, track and field, cross country, basketball, and softball, you know what the goal, you know what the goal was, but you had to break it down into the details to actually accomplish the task. And it was something that I learned that I couldn't do it by myself. I was never the best one in any of those endeavors, but I was a part of a team. And as a collective unit, you learn how to work together. And so I'm learning, to lead a team when I have a team, to lead a team as a collective unit, but also breaking down the details and setting goals for each step of the way to accomplish whatever you need to do in the background.
Okay. How would you explain what you do as a professional in one sentence? Then how would you explain what you do as a professional in one word?
Okay, sure. As a director of operations, I create opportunities to put our staff on the forefront of whatever endeavor, putting them on display and kind of serving in the background, running different programs as far as software for registration, for example, for an event, but taking care of the details so they can worry about things that they're best at.
Awesome. And what one word would you say summarizes everything?
I would say background.
Background. Okay. What do you love the most about your job?
Ooh, that's a good one. I you know, when you work in the background, no one really sees a lot of those things. And what gives me the most encouragement is when I see what I'm doing, how it affects students. Because, like I said, campus ministry, our ministry is focused on Black college students. And so when we host different events, which I'm working in the background, to hear students say things like, this changed my life. I mean, it just, there's nothing quite like creating an environment for God to show up in the lives of students and knowing that you are a part of that. So that gives me the greatest joy. And also, you know, one of the passions that I developed over time wasn't even related to my role, but it's something I'm passionate about personally, and that's financial literacy, financial stewardship. And so having opportunities to connect with young people, whether it's at my church or on my job or just friends in my circle, getting an opportunity to talk about what are you going to do with the money that God allows you to have, and helping them do things like manage it, create a budget, get out of debt. Those kinds of things also give me, that gives me the greatest joy. But working in the background and not really caring if you get credit for it or recognition, but just seeing how it affects other people's lives, there's just something about that, you know, it's like when I serve in that capacity, I really feel God's pleasure.
What would you say on the other end of the spectrum? What is your biggest challenge? What's the biggest challenge associated with work?
I think having enough people, technology, and money, really, the resources to, you know, get people around you to accomplish the task. Because campus ministry and trying to reach out to Black college students all over the country, it's a pretty daunting task. And if you don't have the people, the resources, the, you know, technology or whatever, it just makes it a little bit harder. So I think that's the biggest challenge.
What steps must a person accomplish to either become respected in your profession or certified to get to your profession?
It really depends on the nature of the nonprofit itself. But for us, the first starting spot is education. High school diploma and college degree. Now, we don't require a college degree, but most of the people that come our way and work with us are college graduates, because it's just credibility when you step onto a college campus. Now, our staff work on a college campus. Like I said, I work with operations, so I'm not on the campus full time, but it gives them instant credibility knowing that someone who graduated from college is talking about you and encouraging you to stay the course, to stay in school, but, you know, keeping God in the school first as your priority makes all the difference. So I would say that would be the way I would answer that.
Okay. How does a person negotiate salary or the value of their services in their career choice?
Okay. Well, for us, you know, salary is based on your need. So a person would have to do the work of understanding, establishing their budget, and then, you know, creating a salary scale based on your financial needs. So if you got a lot of debt, you're probably going to have to, you know, try to cut that down some. But at the end of the day, whatever you make or whatever salary scale is created for your specific scenario, then you've got to go out and encourage people to invest in that work. You asked what was one of the biggest challenges. That was on the work side. On the other side of that is living on giving. Because as nonprofit, you live on the gifts of other people, whether it's well-known corporations that provide or churches or individuals, you're living on giving. And I've been living on giving for 35 years now. So.
Let's see. Based on what you know now about your vocation, this is a time machine question. Based on what you know now about your vocation, what advice would you give yourself if you can go back on the first day of the job?
Oh, man, I would say you don't have to know everything. You're going to be in an environment where there's grace, where you're going to learn as you go. There are some things that are expected, but give yourself a chance to learn and grow, and maybe figure out what the best fit is for you. Because when I first started with this organization, I was not the director of operations. And it's something that was discovered along the way as I paid attention to those details and started doing things and creating things. So don't feel like you have to figure it all out when you first get there. Be open to learning, be open to getting input, and that people are there not to exploit you or kind of put you down, make you feel less than. They're there to help you succeed at what you do. And so look to the people who are working, serving over you, or your supervisor at another job, whoever it is. Look to learn, no matter how horrible they might be. Look to learn from your craft, and garner resources around you. I mean, we didn't have internet, YouTube, or things like that, when I was first starting out, but there are so many resources that can aid a person in their profession. If they do the work, they do the research.
How do you prepare to one day transition from this role? What does in-game or retirement look like, if at all?
Yeah, that's a good question. As I think about retirement, that's something I've never, just between you and me and whoever's watching, I don't believe in retirement per se as we define it in the US. There is no biblical concept at all about retirement, but there is principles about saving for a rainy day, so to speak. So I think that might be where the concept of retirement comes from. I'm going to work for as long as God allows my body to work, but I also have a retirement fund. And so I do put money away. I do have a goal of paying off the mortgage of a house that I bought 5 years ago, and getting that paid off in like the next 9-10 years. And that's at the point where I feel like it would be time to retire, at least from the role on a full-time basis, but I will never retire from doing work for God. So whether that's on a volunteer basis, I'm not the person that retires, goes, travels, and sits away, spending all my time on some desert island trying to, soak up the sun and all that. That's not my idea of retirement.
Okay. So our last two questions, the Cultivate Countdown. Are there any steps that you would recommend for someone who may be considering the same role or similar role?
Yeah, I think for anybody that's working in the background doing operations type work, like there are, gosh, I think you've got to always understand the big picture. Like for people like me who do operations types things in the background, you can be so attentive to the details that you kind of forget about people. And so the first thing I think is to settle in your mind that you will always value people over tasks, and to treat people with dignity and respect. And like, systems are made for people. People aren't made for systems, in a sense. And so that's the first thing. And so understanding what the big picture is, then you bring the details into the picture to accomplish those things. So know yourself well, know what your strengths are. Even as a director of of operations. I know that I can create systems, but I am not necessarily a creator. I'm a developer of systems and to make them better. Sometimes people can create things and I can come in and make them better. One of my side hustles within my role is editing, like editing information, emails, letters. We have monthly correspondence with people that give. And so I'm constantly encouraging people to do better with, how they're writing. Writing is not something that's respected these days. People kind of write the way they talk, especially on social media, and you're getting emoticons that say words for you. And so people can't spell anymore. And so it's all those kinds of things. I'm sure you feel me, huh, Zach?
Oh, yes, that's
yeah. And so always ask questions. If you don't know something, it's okay to not know something. So, understand the value of your role, not valuing people over, systems or tasks. Ask questions if you don't know something, and maybe make sure that they point you to resources that can help you. Also utilize social media, the internet, I'll say. Sometimes social media platforms might not be good, but YouTube is an excellent resource these days. It used to be that you have to go physically to, a local library or a class that's offering Microsoft Excel help or whatever. Well, you can go on YouTube now, and for whatever you need to do in Excel, you can find it on YouTube. So learn to utilize the resources around you, and then seek to be excellent in whatever you do, and understand that success is not something that you just wake up and accomplish. Like it's good to believe in yourself, but success is always preceded by the work that you put into it. So the success that you experience is going to be a function of the work that you're willing to put in it. And we're not talking about being lazy about your pursuit, but pursuing excellence, that's different than pursuing perfection.
That's good. Good perspective. All right. Well, I feel like such a wealth of knowledge and information. So our last two questions, but last major question is, what is one motivational quote? We had to put out a meme. It was associated with your name and who you are. What is your quote that would be connected to you?
I've heard a lot of people say it before and it makes sense, but it's choose a job you will love and you will never have to work a day in your life.
I love it. I
think that speaks for itself.
Absolutely. I love it. All right. Well, that is an interview. That's everything that we have. And we're going to use this and put out the content. And any other final thoughts, anything that you haven't talked about that you'd like to cover? Any final thoughts?
Yeah, I think it's important to remember, whether you're in the for-profit sector or nonprofit, that I believe that God is the source of all provision. And so because God is not broke, never has been and never will be, that you can trust him to provide for you. And then to learn to be a good steward of the money that he allows us to have. People get it twisted. They think they're self-made, it's my money, so on and so forth. Like, nope, it all belongs to God. And it's just temporarily loaned out to you, and you make good use of it, and he'll continue to provide.
Absolutely.
So, and also, like I said, believe in yourself. Believe that you are able to accomplish you know, whatever God has made it very clear and plain for you to pursue. And then tap into the resources around you to help. You know, nobody is a lone ranger. You cannot accomplish things by yourself. You need a community, people around you. You need a support system to keep going. Because even though I love my job, there are days when I'm like, wow, okay, God, you got this. So that's good. That's
Well,
it.
Ms. Warren, thank you so much for your time, your expertise, and really appreciate it. Thank you so much for joining us for this interview.
You're so welcome. It's good to be with you, Mr. Zach.
Yes. You have a great day.
You too.